Should be live. Yep, we're live.
Okay. Hey, everybody. This is Louis Cohen of DLX Law, and thank you for joining for our first inaugural live cast and general legal throwdown. We're thrilled to be with you, and we're going to have a lot of fun here today. We've got most of our DLX Law team on the line, and I'll just let everybody do quick intros. I think most of you guys know us, but Gabe, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm Gabe Shapiro. I'm a corporate attorney, sort of doing the digital nomad thing for a while. And yeah, I specialize in strategic transactions involving blockchain technology companies.
Fantastic. Sitting next to me is Rodrigo Serra. Rodrigo, you want to?
Hello, everybody. My name is Rodrigo. I'm an attorney at DLX, focusing on all sorts of corporate matters relating to blockchain technology.
And it wouldn't be a live cast if we didn't have somebody in stealth mode. Our co-founder, Angela Wilson, is with us. Angela, are you coming out of stealth mode here? Okay.
Just for a brief moment, I am Angela. I have spent most of my career in big law and got very excited about blockchain a long time ago. And so I spent the last 4 years as the general counsel of Digital Asset Holdings, and then decided to get back into the broader ecosystem, and thus DLX.
Cool. So I think, again, a lot of you know us. We had sort of somewhat different lives in the big law world, but, you know, we're embracing—
We have Greg now. Hey, Louis, we have Greg now. Greg just joined.
Oh, excellent. So we have our colleague, Greg Strong. Perfect timing, Greg. You want to just say a quick hello to the folks?
Yeah, hey everyone. This is Greg Strong, DLX Law attorney, and really excited to join everybody to talk about EtherDelta and the first edition of For the Nonce.
Exactly. So this is, as if you haven't figured it out yet, a little bit of an experiment. Blockchain is about community, and we're trying to build a community here a bit. We welcome your feedback. So when we're done, if you think there were things that went well, we'd love to hear it. If you think there are things we can do better, we'd love to hear about that too. I think, can we take comments along the way? So if people want to troll us, that's an option.
Yeah, there should be a live chat. You make a good point. There is supposed to be a live chat.
So sarcastic remarks will be
how to see it. How to see it is another matter. You might have to pull up the actual live stream on YouTube and just mute it.
All right. Well, I'll leave you. This is I think that my view, technological prowess is directly correlated to the amount of black anyone's wearing at any given moment.
Yeah. Well, and I also see the chat is working, and in fact, Matt Corva is our first troll. So thank you, Matt Corva.
And as it should be. So
yes.
So we're here primarily to talk about EtherDelta. I think at this point most folks know generally the outline of what happened. You know, Greg, having come from a background of enforcement, though, do you want to just kind of kick off with a couple of light thoughts about, you know, what went on and maybe what folks at the SEC were thinking?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think as a lot of people have pointed out, the cease and desist was entered by agreement, and it involved the individual and not the entity or the trading system or the platform. And so, you know, it's important to think of the order in that context, because there are findings in the order that sort of set forth facts and legal conclusions. But, you know, those findings were not contested, and the order specifically, you know, indicates that the individual agreed to the entry of the order, but did not admit or deny the findings.
Yeah, and one of the things, Gabe, that you know, a lot of folks have commented on, I personally found a bit of a red herring, is the fact that the SEC didn't actually identify any particular tokens as the problematic securities. And again, just to recap for folks, what concerned the SEC was the fact that the platform was operating in a way that appeared to be within the bounds of the definition of an exchange, although we could talk a bit about that and how we feel about that. But in order to be exchange, you've got to deal in securities. We know they dealt in tokens, but they never identified which tokens they were. And I'm kind of curious, Gabe, your thoughts on how important is it that they did or didn't, tell us which of the tokens were the bad guys?
Well, I think it's a clue, right, as to what's going on here, right? Many people said, oh, this is like a draconian settlement, against the founder. He's having to fork over 300,000. I mean, I guarantee the guy made way more than 300,000. From Rodney, I would be shocked if he didn't make more than that, even though they called it a disgorgement. So, in my mind, actually, this is a pretty favorable settlement to this guy, and the SEC went out of its way in order to point out that in their view, they were going easy on him because he was cooperating. And so you say, well, why did they go easy on him? Well, one of the reasons probably is, if you think about the SEC litigating this, step one is they got to prove that one of these, tokens that traded on EtherDelta during the time, presumably during the time that he controlled it, was a security. Now, of course, they probably could do that, right? And probably a bunch of them are securities, at least, in the SEC's view and any number of, potential judges' views. But I don't think they want to do that, right? I don't think they want to have that litigation, because if you really think about it, they'd probably want to like simultaneously argue that like 20 of them, right, are securities in case they lose some, right, in case they lose on some. And so they're like, they'd be having all these litigations about other cases that they might otherwise be pursuing. And I'm sure they didn't want to do that. And so I'm sure that's part of why they gave the guy a favorable settlement, right? And also he probably cooperated, and it sets the stage, for them to take on harder cases later. So I think it's a clue. I don't think it's, you say the SEC is evil because they didn't identify in the order. No, they're enforcers. They're using a strategy.
I think it's a great point. And Rodrigo, you talk about strategy. To me, one of the things that we're seeing here is a clear pattern of enforcement actions, looking at different types of activities and kind of putting markers down. And this is a marker that, applies here to, this particular operation, this particular platform. But, it's possible that this is also sending a wider signal to the market. Do you think, I mean, there's been a lot of commentary on that, but how far reaching, do you think this really could be?
I think your first point is an important one, and it explains a lot of the SEC's strategy and how they're approaching the space. I think what you're seeing is the SEC focusing on folks that are, I guess, initially the bad actors, folks that were clear fraud cases, and then from there trying to pick, I think, cases and matters that send signals in different parts of the market. So you have, for example, the initial outright fraud cases with people just making up advisors and making up SEC registrations, and then I think you had a conscious effort by the SEC of picking and choosing different issues that they wanted to address. So you see maybe like the Tomahawk order and trying to give some guidance in with regards to airdrops, and then I think this action is definitely meant to inform the market that the SEC is paying attention to decentralized exchanges, and that just by virtue of being nominally decentralized, you will not be out of the purview of the SEC. However, I think to your second question, which is like how much does this affect the rest of the market, and specifically with centralized exchanges, I think that's a gray area and something that will be worked out, because I think the facts of the case are pretty specific, and there are different design choices and different, I guess, business structures that you could deploy that I think would allow you to differentiate different potential decentralized exchanges from the way that EtherDelta operated and was controlled.
Yeah, Greg, you spent a lot of time thinking about state law issues. This is kind of interesting because in the 33 Act, right, the Securities Act of 1933, the states have actually been pretty active, or what I would say, I guess maybe is the primary issuance market, kind of taking up the cause of working with the SEC to provide some kind of enforcement backup. But here in the secondary market context, it's a little bit different. And maybe just like, I'm curious kind of your take on that, and then how this plays out with the NYAG's investigation that they, of course, released their report about 2 months or so ago. So like, what's the state law angle on this?
Yeah, that's a great question, Louis. So, you know, the SEC has the authority to register exchanges. So any